Hey everybody, this is Willow. Um, was trying to just figure out what I wanted to do for the next video, and I've got some stuff that I've got to sort out some more. But what I really want to talk about today is violence against transgender people. So where I live at in Rochester, New York, there was recently, a few days ago, a trans man that was murdered by his girlfriend, stabbed in the middle of late at night, and it was a pretty intense situation. I do not know who the person was. I never met them, um, but there was just a lot of uncertainty about what was going on, and it really makes me think about all the violence that happens in this country against transgender people. So as part of that situation tonight, this is on Thursday, by the way. Um, Tonight there was an event where some people got together. There was about 35 of us in the room, mostly transgender people, but there were also some different people from, different organizations and groups that were hoping to be a part of the conversation. We had a group called Willow Domestic Violence Center that came to talk about issues with domestic violence, um, and some other things. Um, and it was, a time to really stop and think about what it means to be transgender in this country. Um, so one of the things I want to do real quick is I want to take a moment to, up here in the text box, have just a listing of the 19 people so far in 2017 that have been murdered, which will include the person here in Rochester, New York. And it's a scary thing to see a listing in the room where we met. There was a whiteboard and one of the people that was involved with the event had written down all 19 names on that board. And to sit there and look and to say to yourself, these are all people who died just because they were transgender. And that's a pretty sobering thought and experience to have that and to see that. And so part of what we looked at, I ended up facilitating the conversation. Mostly I did an introduction and I did a conclusion. But most of that conversation was just letting people talk. So what I did to start off, though, is I talked about something significant that I had thought about this morning. The idea that the world is afraid of change. And you can look at that and say, well, I don't know. But look at your own life and think about what you worry about and what you think about and what you're afraid of. There are things in life that we have fears about. Will I have a job tomorrow? Am I going to get this? Is this going to work out? And then we have lots of other fears that are bigger and more troublesome. Do we have to worry about terrorists or, what might happen to transgender people or LGBTQ people? We don't know what the future holds, and that causes some fear. We have, fear of getting older and, not being able to do the things that we used to do. There's all kinds of fears that pop up. And so that sense of fear can do one of two things. It can either cause you to lash out against the fear, to hide from it, to battle against the fear, or it can inspire you to do something positive about that situation. So as a transgender person, there's a fear that I may not get treated the way that that any person should. That there may be some people who want to hurt me or, do harm to me just because, I'm transgender. And in my case, there is some some relief for that because as gender fluid person, I can present masculine or feminine. And if I go into a situation where I don't feel that it's comfortable, I don't have that inner sense that I need to become, that I need to present female. And there's times when I make that choice that, like, this is not something I need to deal with right now. But honestly, that's not something that's the situation for everyone. And if you're in a situation where you need to be honest with yourself and true to yourself by presenting masculine or feminine or, non-gender, however that you feel you need to present, you need to do that. And it can be a dangerous thing. But do we live in fear or do we push forward? And that is the real question that we ended up looking at. And I don't want to get into the details and specifics of what every person had to say or anything like that. But what I do want to do is to let's take a moment just to look at and consider some situations that we have that can cause some fear. So the first thing that I want to think about is the idea of not passing. So early on in a transition situation, when you're just starting on hormones, or when you're living your life, there's a possibility that you're not going to pass, that you're not going to present in a way that will fool people. And that's not the way we want to talk about it anyway. But in terms of, when we talk about passing, it's really the idea that, when people look at me, they see me as the gender that I want to present. And that's a difficult thing, especially when you're starting out. There's so much to learn about the gender that you are moving towards. So for example, if you're transitioning towards female, you need to learn about makeup and clothes and fashion and jewelry and how to make that work and that work and what to do with your hair. And hair is tricky, and so is makeup, and so is fashion. There's a lot to figure out there. And so what you need to look at is, am I going to pass? Does it matter if I pass? So if you wait until you can pass, will you ever reach the point where you can accept yourself? Or do you need to accept yourself and then work towards passing? Or is passing even a thing that you need to do? So for me, I don't necessarily feel that I have to pass, that I have to reach this impossible goal of looking like a person that I'm not going to look like. Keep in mind for me though that I'm not on hormones, that I'm not doing anything besides just presenting in a feminine manner. And so when you look at that situation, do you wait or do you move now? And again, it's a complicated choice because you don't know what the future will hold, and you don't know what may happen in any given situation. But at the same time, it's not a choice that there's a right or a wrong. So in some cases, there are some people who will never pass, and and some people that never want to do that, and that is perfectly fine, as long as you know that as long as you have yourself in a situation where you feel confident that you're going to be safe and okay, and as long as you have that, then take and do what you need to do. Okay, and next what we want to look at is the idea of making sure that you're comfortable with where you're at. Okay, so whether or not you pass is a completely separate situation, and whether or not you need to pass is a completely separate situation. But do you feel confident in yourself and who you are to the point where you can live the truth of who you are? So I've got some trans friends that, at this point right now are not in a place where they are, passing that test of, like if they went to a doctor and said, hey, I'm transgender, and the doctor would look at them and say, well, you haven't done this or that. And not every doctor's like that. Sorry, I don't want to give you the impression that that's the case. I'm thinking more along the lines of, like in the 50s and 60s where you had to look a certain way in order to convince, the people that are working with you on your transition that you're ready. But I mean, I've got a friend who is, 6 foot tall, bald headed. She used to have an amazing beard. I miss the beard, Kerrigan. If you're watching this, I miss your beard. But you look adorable anyway. But Kerrigan is not, in a situation right now where she is passing that test. But that doesn't stop her. She is confident in who she is and where she's at, and so that she is able to move forward and be proud of who she is. Again, if you're watching this, Kerrigan, you're amazing. Thank you. Also, I've got a friend who is gender fluid, similar to what I am, and they, present very feminine because of their job, mostly, but also finds ways to mix things up. And earlier tonight, she was wearing this amazing suit. It was incredible, and I'm jealous I don't have one like it. But anyway, so with that, you have to decide if where you're at, and if you're confident with where you're at enough to embrace that and move forward, and say to the world, this is who I am. I may be bald, my head may be bald, but I'm a woman, and if you can't handle that, then you can find someplace else to be. So I'm going to leave you with one last thought, and this was my closing thought for the event. So I mentioned already about the fact that the world is afraid of change. So as a transgender person, as someone who has embraced that part of who they are and is willing to move forward, even if you're not at that point, just accepting the fact that you're transgender, if that's who you are, is a huge step. And it's saying to yourself and to the world that, I'm afraid of change, but I'm more afraid of not embracing who I am. That I have this truth within me that I need to change, that I need to transition, that I need to present a certain way. And by embracing that and opening yourself up to that change, you are brave and you are strong. And you may not see that, but that is the truth. And I'm proud of you. I'm proud of us. If you're not quite there, that's okay as well. Take your truth and move forward. Good luck. Also, before I forget, you can find the email to send in any questions you have to questioninggenders@yahoo.com. Check out our Patreon page, which will pop up in the corner. Thank you, text box. You will also find, I'm going to put the list again of the 19 people who have, transgender people who have been killed. Keep in mind that many of these, the majority of these, are trans women of color and trans men of color, and that's an important thing. Please protect and be aware of our brothers and sisters of color. Thank you.